There's this image that society just can't seem to let go of. It's practically baked into our cultural DNA at this point.
Starving artists.
The starving artist,
Oh, yeah.
exactly. The writer shivering in a cold apartment. The painter eating instant noodles for like the 10th day in a row.
Mm-hmm. The musician sleeping in a van. It's a stubborn trope, isn't it?
It is. And honestly, we romanticize it. We have this story that the suffering is the fuel, that if you aren't struggling, the art isn't real.
But if you actually talk to creatives, to people trying to make a living off their imagination, that struggle isn't romantic. It's just exhausting. It's burnout.
Absolutely. It's a fast track to quitting. And, when we try to solve that problem, when we talk about supporting the arts, the conversation is usually so narrow.
Right. It's typically about grants or gallery shows or maybe a GoFundMe when things get really bad. It's almost always reactive.
Exactly. It's like, here's a little bit of money to keep you floating until the next crisis. But today, we're diving into a stack of documents that's proposing something, well, radically different.
We're looking at a pitch deck, a kind of philosophical manifesto, and some, frankly, confusing screenshots from an entity called the Creative Collective.
It's such a fascinating mix of sources.
It really is. On one hand, you have this very emotional, almost spiritual language about nervous system safety and identity shifting.
And then on the other hand, right next to it, you have receipts, literal receipts for huge discounts on Disney World tickets.
Those SUV rentals, yeah.
I have to admit, when I first opened the file and saw ethical persuasion next to a discounted Hilton rate, I thought, okay, what's the connection here?
It feels like two different languages.
It does. But as we went through the deck, a pretty clear picture started to form. They aren't just selling cheap travel, they're making an argument for a completely new economic model for creative people.
That is the core claim. The mission here isn't just to save $50 on a hotel. It's to move creatives from a surviving mindset to a thriving one.
And they argue you can't do that with just real power or hustle culture.
No, you need structural change.
So let's unpack that structure. Because whether you're an actor, a freelancer, or just someone who feels totally overworked, there's a really interesting aha moment in here about how we all value rest.
Let's start with the real pain section of their manifesto. They do not pull any punches.
No, they don't.
Slide 2 has this headline that I think a lot of people will resonate with. Creativity is celebrated. Burnout is ignored.
That line just jumped right out at me. It frames the problem not as a lack of talent, but as a lack of sustainability.
Right. And the text goes on to say, money comes in waves. Rest feels earned, not allowed. They're identifying a specific psychological loop.
For most gig workers, rest is just a recovery mechanism. It's something you only do after you crash.
It's the reward for nearly killing yourself.
Yeah.
You work till you drop, then you rest just to get back to baseline, and then you do it all over again.
Right.
And the manifesto argues that this state of financial instability, it keeps the nervous system in a chronic state of fight or flight.
And biologically, you just can't do deep, innovative, creative work when your brain is constantly scanning for threats.
Exactly. So the starving artist isn't just miserable, they're actually less creative because they're starving. Survival mode kills innovation.
Your brain shuts down the play centers to focus on survival.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So the Creator Collective is pitching a solution that sounds kind of counterintuitive. They want to lower the cost of living, specifically the cost of joy and rest, so the nervous system can relax enough to actually create.
And this is where we get into their specific terminology. They use this phrase, layaway energy. Now, I grew up with layaway. You pay a little at a time for a coat or something. But what is layaway energy?
It's a really clever rebrand of a savings model, but with a psychological twist. They know creatives have irregular income.
The classic feast or famine cycle.
Right. So their membership model caps out at $179 a month, but they don't call it a fee or a subscription.
What do they call it?
They frame it as intentional future joy. You're paying into a pot that guarantees you a break later.
So you're basically pre-funding your own burnout prevention.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It automates the decision to rest. If you've already paid for the trip, you don't have to ask, can I afford this? Or should I save this for rent?
The money's already deployed. You're just redeeming an experience you already bought.
And what an experience it is. We have to talk about the anchor offer, because usually Travel Club makes me think of, like, timeshares or off-season motel coupons.
Yeah, this is not that. The deck is very specific about the quality here.
That's a crucial distinction. The anchor is a guaranteed annual reset, 4 days, 3 nights. But the properties listed are top tier. We're talking Ritz-Carlton, Conrad, Four Seasons.
And that's for the member plus a guest, right?
Member plus a guest. And you can choose from 10 bucket list destinations around the world. The slides claim the retail value is around $10,000.
Okay, but the cost to the member, that $179 a month all added up, is about $2,200. I have to play skeptic for a second. $2,200 for a $10,000 vacation experience. That math feels, well, it feels generous.
It sounds too good to be true, doesn't it?
It does. Is this just marketing fluff?
Well, this is where their Amazon moment slide comes in. That's the term they use to explain the economics of it.
The Amazon moment. What does that mean here?
Think about how Amazon started. They didn't really make money on books. They used massive volume to negotiate lower prices than any local bookstore could ever get.
They bypass the retail markup.
Exactly. This collective is trying to do the same thing for travel. They're aggregating the buying power of all these artists to act like one giant corporate client.
So instead of booking on Expedia as an individual...
Right, where you pay the street price.
Yeah.
They claim to unlock that wholesale door that's usually only for like huge corporations or travel agencies.
Okay, well, claims are one thing, proof is another. And this is why I was so excited to do this deep dive, because they included a document just labeled receipts.
And it is page after page of side-by-side screenshots. Public prices versus their member app prices.
And the differences are surprising. It's not 10% off. We're talking completely different pricing tiers.
Yeah, let's get into those.
Okay, let's look at the Disney World example. Because Disney is notorious for not discounting. You pay the mouse his money, period.
It's a very controlled market. They protect their pricing.
So the screenshot shows a typical public price for FastPass plus tickets for 2 people. The total comes to $327.50.
Sounds about right for a peak day.
And the member app price right next to it, $166.
Wait, $166. That's almost exactly half price. 49% off.
How is that possible? I didn't think Disney even did wholesale tickets like that.
They do, but usually only to huge corporate partners or like convention bundlers. If you're bringing 5,000 people to a conference in Orlando, you get a different rate.
So this gives a single family that same power that makes a trip like that accessible versus impossible for a lot of people.
It brings it back to that thriving idea. You're an artist, but you're still allowed to take your kids to Disney.
Okay, but the one that I think is most practical for a working creative is the car rental, the SUV example.
Yes. This one felt very grounded in the reality of the gig economy.
The scenario is a drive from Nashville to Miami, 5-day rental. Musicians do this run all the time.
Actors driving to audition, sure.
The public prices on Hertz, Expedia, they're all clumped together. Around $475, $500.
Roughly $100 a day. Standard retail price for an SUV.
Then you look at the member app price, $125 flat.
For the whole 5 days.
For the full 5 days, $25 a day.
See, that changes the whole decision-making process. At $500, you might skip the audition. You might decide the gig isn't worth it.
But at $125, you go. You take the chance. It removes the friction.
But going back to the manifesto, that's what they mean by nervous system safety. If the car costs $500, you're stressed the whole drive. You're worried about gas, if the gig will even cover it. At $125, you're relaxed. You arrive in a much better headspace.
It just validates the idea that financial stress is a real physiological burden. Lowering the cost removes that burden, frees up brain space.
Now, we have to talk about the hotels, because this is where the screenshots get, well, a little obsessive. They've cataloged all these major creative hubs.
Atlanta, Seattle, Vegas. Let's run through them. The pattern is so consistent.
Okay, Atlanta. Embassy Suites in Buckhead. Public price, $234 a night. Member price, $104.99.
More than half off.
Seattle. Hilton Bellevue. Public price is listed at $375. Member price, $105.99.
Whoa, that's a huge gap. $375 is a serious expense. $105 is like a budget motel price for a Hilton.
And then Vegas. This one, I actually laughed. Caesar's Palace. The public total is shown at roughly $301 a night.
And the member price?
$41.99.
$42. You can't get lunch in Vegas for $42. I know. I zoomed in to make sure I wasn't misreading it. $41.99. I mean, obviously Vegas has resort fees, but that base rate difference is staggering.
It really suggests that the public price we all see online is just heavily inflated. The actual wholesale rate the hotel is willing to accept to fill a room is so much lower.
But the real showstopper, and the one that I think justifies their whole ethical persuasion argument, is the Italy comparison.
The Hotel Galileo in Florence.
Right, Tuscany,
Uh,
7 night stay.
Okay, what's the retail damage on that?
So on the left, you see the Expedia checkout screen. For 7 nights, the total is $4,912.20, nearly $5,000.
Which, sadly, is what you'd expect for a week in Florence.
And on the right, the Creative Collective member price for the exact same dates, same room, $560.21.
Oh, for the week.
Total, for the whole week.
That's hard to even process. That's not a discount.
Yeah.
The member price for the week is basically the cost of one night on Expedia.
Yes. And my first instinct was, this has to be a scam, a glitch in the matrix or something.
Sure.
But then you look at that Amazon moment explanation again. Hotels would rather sell an empty room for something than nothing. But they can't advertise an $80 a night rate publicly. It would destroy their brand.
Exactly. If the Hotel Galileo put that on Expedia, no one would ever pay $700 again. So they dump that unsold inventory into these closed user groups, like this collective, where the general public can't see the price.
So the collective is basically a private channel for unsold luxury rooms.
In a way, yeah. And that explains the price. It's the difference between what the market will bear and what the room is actually worth to fill.
Which brings us back to that phrase from the manifesto, ethical persuasion. It says, when the value is this clear, you don't need hype.
And it's true. If you can show someone they can save $4,400 on one trip, you don't need high-pressure sales tactics. The math does all the work.
It changes the question from, can I afford to join, to can I afford not to join?
Right. And that connects to the growth loop they mention. They're relying on members telling other members. The more people join, the more buying power they have, the better the deals get.
I think it's interesting they also emphasize the day-to-day stuff. It's not just Florence. The app covers movie tickets, local restaurants.
Which is critical for that starving artist demographic.
Yeah.
If you're on tour or on location for a shoot, there's a lot of downtime where you're just bleeding money.
Right. You're in a strange city, you're bored, you pay retail for everything. $20 for a movie, $40 for dinner.
Exactly. If the app lowers the cost of just existing while you're chasing the dream, that's huge.
I really like that phrasing, chasing the dream. It acknowledges the dream is expensive, but it doesn't shame the artist for having it.
It doesn't. And what makes this whole thing such a unique case study is that it's trying to merge two worlds that usually hate each other.
That's so.
You have the wellness world, which is all about rest and feelings, but often lacks practical financial solutions. And then you have the discount travel world, which is all about numbers and coupons and has zero soul.
This is trying to be the soulful discount site.
Basically, it's using a hard-nosed wholesale business model to fund a high-minded philosophical goal. It argues you can be an artist and stay at the Ritz. You don't have to choose.
You don't have to choose between your art and your comfort. And I think that's the bigger lesson here, even if you're not a creative.
I agree. What these screenshots prove is that the public price is often a fiction. It's an artificial number we just accept. We assume the car rental is $500 because that's what cars cost. But it's not.
It's just what it costs us when we act alone. It's the retail tax for being an individual.
Exactly. Banding together, whether it's through this collective or something else, it unlocks a different economic reality.
And it requires us to stop accepting the narrative that we have to struggle. That's the part that sticks with me. The outdated lie. We tell ourselves, I'll rest when I make it.
I'll go to Italy when I sell the screenplay.
Right. I'll take the vacation when I get the promotion.
But the science suggests the opposite. You might sell the screenplay faster if you go to Italy first.
That leads to a question I want to leave our listener with. The manifesto sort of hints at it, but let's make it explicit.
Go for it.
We know our identity shapes our behavior. So if you identify as the exhausted creative or the overworked employee, you produce work from that place of exhaustion. The work feels heavy.
It lacks spark, lacks life.
Right. So the question is, what would happen to your work, your art, your spreadsheets, your parenting, if you just operated from the assumption that rest was non-negotiable?
If it was a fixed line item in your budget, like rent or electricity.
Exactly. Not a reward you hope to get, but a bill you've already paid.
Yeah.
How would that change the quality of what you build?
It's a powerful reframing. I mean, imagine writing a novel knowing your trip to Florence is already booked and paid for. You're not writing to escape. You're writing from the place of security. I bet that book has a much better ending.
I bet it does too. Well, that's a lot to process. And honestly, I am still thinking about that $41 Vegas room. If anyone finds it, let us know.
We might need to do a field trip. Strictly for research, of course.
Of course. Thanks for diving in with us, everyone. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Take care.